The thing about customer obsessed companies is if I start going through them, they all have some kind of extreme thing that they tend to do that makes their competitors scratch their head and say, I wouldn't do that. And when you see those extreme things, they don't necessarily on the surface make economic sense. Some people would look at Costco's return policy and say, that's an invitation to abuse. It doesn't seem to be a drag on their financials. Their financials, I mean, they beat their competitors in the industry, every which way, right? I mean, they have more than 100 million people that pay for the right to shop there. Let me tell you, there are big benefits and opportunities to be gained by adopting customer obsession as a business culture, as a business strategy. And so I want to give people that opportunity. Look, when I was at Amazon, we had a mechanism called the Customer Experience and-on cord. What the Customer Experience and-on cord does, in its most basic sense, it gives customer service associates the ability to pull products off the Amazon site if those products are causing a bad experience for customers. Now, we had business rules that would trigger a customer service associate to do that. And to be quite frank, we modernized that to the point where we had machine learning models and advanced statistical models and all those kinds of things that were actually pulling those items faster than customer service associates could detect them. But that's a pretty big deal. When you give an associate the ability to pull a product off the site so that it's not being sold. I'm reminded of a customer came to Costco in January with a Christmas tree that was dead and wanted to return it because it was dead in January. And they took it back. Now, it's like you hear that and you say, who does that? Two who does that questions. One who does that is who brings a tree back in January and say it's dead and expects to get a refund. But the other who does that is who takes the Christmas tree back and gives a refund. Who puts other companies on their own platform to compete against them? That's extreme. Amazon does that. And why does Amazon do that? Why do they put other companies on their platform to compete against their own retail organization? They do that because they know that they can't give customers all of the selection that customers would like to have. They know that they can't always give customers the prices that customers would want to have. But they do know that if other people are on their own platform, they can expand that selection, they can create better prices. And so when you are customer obsessed, you do those kinds of things and other people look at you and they scratch their head and they say, why would you ever do that? Let me tell you how question mark emails work, right? So customer outside has a problem. Usually it's what's referred to as a snowball type of a problem. They've been trying to get this solved. It's not getting solved. They send Jeff email and then Jeff puts a question mark on that email and he sends it down the chain. The highest ranking person who has overall responsibility for solving that problem, that lands on their desk and then they have to answer it. Now, when you got a question mark email, there's pieces that have to come together. Number one, you have to solve the immediate problem that this customer was experiencing. And you would have worked with executive customer relations to solve that immediate problem. But the bigger thing was when Jeff put a question mark on an email, it was like, how do we solve this systemically so that you don't have a bunch of other people having the same problem? And so you and your team had to troubleshoot that issue. You had to get to the bottom of it and understand what were all the things in the critical path that had to be solved. And you had to line up all of these other organizations that might be participating in that solution, get commitments from them so that, you could go back with an email that actually says, this is the problem. This is how we're going to solve it. This is when they're going to be solved. These are the commitments. And of course, if people were making those commitments, that meant that, they had to be honored, because if at any point Jeff could come back and say, whatever happened to this thing you guys promised that you were going to do, or whatever happened to that? Well, hopefully he never had to ask because those were all done and those commitments were all made. When somebody walks into Costco, they don't spend 30 seconds in there. They spend a lot of time in there. When somebody goes to Ritz-Carlton, they don't spend 30 seconds in there. When they go into an Apple store, they don't spend 30 seconds in there. They spend a significant amount of time. So at that moment, if you treat that experience like it's a commercial, every one of those experiences is effectively a commercial. And if you treat it that way, you can see that you can have an enormous positivity on that customer, a lasting impression that is as good as actually having paid, somebody to put on a spot. I think that's one way for companies to think about this. If it's good for the customer, it's good for business. And sometimes even when you can't connect the dots right away to the financial benefit, remember that if it's good for customers, it's good for business. And in the long run, it always pans out.